Welcome back to MLive's Dungeon of Doom podcast. It feels good to be home after spending the week in Indianapolis. I'm Ben Raven. He is Kory Woods. We are MLive's Detroit Lions beat. Kory, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing somewhat okay. As you know, I am about $175 in the hole because I left my microphone in the hotel. And just so we're clear, it was the personal one, not the company one.
That was the first question our dear friend producer Patrick asked. And just a shout out, Courtyard Capital Marriott. We know you're lying because it's the only place we used it.
Right, because I'm like, I checked everywhere. I checked my bags. I checked everywhere. I said, I know for a fact I did not take that microphone outside of that room.
We only used them in the room. We used them in our hotel. They're lying. They know they're lying. So enjoy your microphone for your Marriott Indianapolis podcast or whatever the hell you got in mind for that.
Yeah.
So it's already been a kind of, we teased a busy week last Thursday on our kind of combine wrap up. We get home. Obviously, David Montgomery gets traded. Graham Glasgow gets released. Stuff's moving. Kind of still expecting some restructures in the coming day because they got to get out of the red by next Wednesday. Today is Thursday, March 5th. Next Wednesday is the start of the new year, the new league year, which is when deals can get announced, trades can become official. When all the reports you see over Monday through Wednesday morning get reported, you'll see those start to be announced and all that. So it's a busy week. We're doing a mailbag podcast today. I wasn't planning on a full mailbag, but the responses on X, the responses on Blue Sky, and a handful of responses to the Dungeon of Doom at MLive.com email address have called on us to do a mailbag. So shout out to those guys. And if you guys really love Kory and I'm begging for at least one recorded voice memo sent to the email the next time we do a mailbag pod. It probably won't be next week because the NFL world will be spitting topics and headlines and all that stuff at us. So yeah, we're going to have our show set for us next week, but we're going to kind of use this to, we're going to use this week's episode. Any lingering thoughts from the combine? Obviously, the David Montgomery trade is going to be our main topic of the day. Also got some questions about Juice Scruggs, the offensive lineman that came back in the deal for Montgomery. Well, let's just start. Dave Montgomery, I know we got questions on it, but let's just get some thoughts out of the way. Kory, just initial reactions. Were you surprised at how quick it got done? And what did you think about the return?
Well, first off, yes, I am definitely surprised at how quick it got done. Not the fact that it happened, because when we were talking to Brad Holmes last week at the combine, at first we kind of thought that things were pointing in the right direction based on what David Montgomery said during Super Bowl media week. Then you get to what Brad Holmes said, and even we talked about that seems kind of different than what we've been kind of hearing. And then you see the Fowler report, and then again, I said it on our MLive YouTube page. Jeremy Fowler just said David Montgomery wants out. He never said that he specifically heard that from David Montgomery. And again, just kind of not be too long-winded. Just my initial reaction was I was shocked at how quickly it got done. Not the fact that it got done, and that was just based off of Brad Holmes' comments recently. I'm like, when he said what he said, I'm like, okay, things don't appear to be the way we thought they were leaning.
Yeah, and I think it does show that Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, they're men of their word. I mean, after the season, they said we love David, but he's a player who deserves to be utilized the way he wants to be utilized and all that stuff. And then what Brad said last week, and then kind of the player wants to be here too type stuff. Yeah, Demo's tweet after the Fowler report's hilarious. I mean, getting these reports community noted on Twitter only to be traded about 18 hours later. That's great PR marketing work by old David Montgomery. But it's funny, just talking with the combine's great for just catching up with people. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was a reporter friend that covers another team was just like, don't the Lions hold all the cards in this David Montgomery situation? And I'm just like, yes, they do. His extension hasn't even kicked in yet. They do not have to move him. They could say, hey, man, you're here. You're either here or you're not playing. But they didn't do that. And there's a part of me that respects the hell out of that. But there's also a part of me that's like, you are a better team with David Montgomery on it. I mean, full stop, no matter the value and all that. We got questions about the value. We'll talk about that in a minute, but just like They didn't have to do this. The cap savings did not move the needle. The cap savings didn't move the needle as much as Graham Glasgow's cut. So this was not a move that they had to do, but I just go back to the Dan Campbell about the buy-in in the locker room, the locker room chemistry. It matters. And those guys love David. You saw St. Brown's podcast. You wrote that up yesterday. I mean, they love David. David's a leader. David's been here 2023, 24, 25, the rise. But hey, the Lions still, I mean, got great value on him. I said we'll talk about that later, but like they also did right by the player. I guess he's going to a Texans O-line that's got just as many, if not more, questions than the Lions do.
That was the interesting thing for me, is that, okay, first off, I didn't really understand why. Okay, we see reports, Colton from The Athletic said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the Lions were kind of maybe taken aback of why Montgomery wanted out. I mean, obviously, that things last year didn't go the way that everyone expected. I think that was just more so due to John Morton's inability to really get a finger on the pulse of the offense, and then Dan Campbell taking over. It wasn't great, but it had to be done given the situation. So I was kind of really thinking that with Drew Petzing coming in and their initial conversation, and then Brad Holmes, he's repeatedly said this while also stating that David Montgomery has to want to be here. Brad Holmes has continuously said they want to put what happened last year in the rear view. And one thing that did stick out during the end of season press conference is they said they were not only going to do right by him, but they put him where he wanted to go. And I'm unsure of why he wanted to go to a Texans team with, like you said, more offensive line holes than what the Lions have. But hey, they did right by him. They got more than what they were initially seeking in return, according to reports. So it doesn't make the Lions better. Let's not kid ourselves. It doesn't make the Lions better, but I will say, optic wise, it does not make them look worse, off the simple fact that they did right by the player. They sent him where he wants to go, and you probably got the best compensation that you could get for a 29-year-old running back.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to use that segue right in the mailbag, and we're going to start with our Doomer of the Week, Daniel McKiernan. Good morning, Ben and Kory. I'm sure 90% of your questions will be about David Montgomery, and so will this one. But bear with me. My question is about motivation. If Montgomery liked it here in Detroit, respects the coaches, likes his teammates, including Gibbs, and most importantly, still had a solid contract, all true, why does it sound like he wanted out so bad? Surely he could see the step back the O-line took last year was the biggest issue. Is it just a pride thing, how many rushes he got, or is there any reason to believe he thought the Lions would ask for a pay cut or let him go? Why not just keep playing it out? Make it make sense. Thank you. Great question. Great email, Dan. That's kind of what I just got to, too. They didn't have to. And that is my question for David Montgomery is, dude, yes, you were not the superstar, no doubt, lead back. Yes, your snaps dropped to 33% per ESPN research in the final 8 games of the season. Didn't have a game with more than 10 carries in any of those final 8 games. Yes, but this is still an offense. Sharing a backfield with Jahmyr Gibbs, 158 carries, 716 yards, 8 touchdowns. That is good work. You are on a great offense. You are on a team dedicated to improving the offensive line. You are paired up with one of the biggest growing superstar players in this game, and you still got 158 carries, and you still got 30 targets in the pass game when that is not your specialty at all. He was still a part of the plan. Yes, it dropped, but it was always going to drop if Gibbs was going to hit as much as we thought he was going to hit after seeing him. So it's just like, dang, man, I don't know. Your extension had even kicked in. Everybody, if he wanted to be back, he would be back. There would be no questions asked. maybe a pay cut. I don't even, because his contract wasn't even that big. I think the extension was like 2 years for $18 million with incentives.
That's correct. Yep, 18.25.
That's just off the dome. I do this too much. Oh my god. But this was a good situation, and even if his carries remained what they were last year, man, you still found a way to get 700 yards, 8 touchdowns. The best running back duo in the NFL, and now you're going to a Houston team that's got a Woody Marks. David Montgomery is clearly the best back in that backfield right now, but the offensive line issues, Houston is always stuck in an offensive line.
Houston has a problem.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. Detroit, he should have, personally speaking, he should have been, it's okay to express frustration. You're at a great situation to express frustration. Hey, I want the ball more. I need more chances. Yeah, you're right. You do. And I know the Lions said all those things and it never happened. And even when Dan took over play calling, Montgomery's role shrunk from those 41% snaps down to the 30 level. So I get it. Frustration. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall. I'm just like, damn, man, you still had a meaty role on like potentially like NFL's most loaded offense.
I will say this, and David Montgomery has said all of the right things about, the backfield tandem with the previous backfield tandem of him and Jahmyr Gibbs, the whole Sonic and Knuckles bit. It was all of that sounds good. And he said, and you've never seen anything or heard anything about Montgomery being less than an ideal teammate. Again,
right.
You heard it again from Marai St. Brown on his podcast. It's just interesting that after 1 year of being RB2, he's like, you know what? I'm out of here. And maybe he was okay with the split carries as long as he was the quote unquote feature back. I don't know. It's just odd that after 1 year, that was a less than likely ideal offense for everybody involved. He's the one guy that is just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go take my chances elsewhere. And again, it's his right. More power to him. The Lions didn't have to do it. He signed a 2-year extension. They could have just been like, hey, sit tight, buddy. You're here, or you're not going to report. We'll whatever you decide. Hey, we got you for 2 more years. So, I'm curious to see how this is going to pan out for him. Don't wish bad on anybody or anything like that, but I just personally feel like, given what we think is about to happen with this Lions offense, this would have been an ideal fit for him.
Yeah, the hiring of Drew Petzing kind of made everyone think, oh, Montgomery will probably be back. Like, he's probably licking his chops about that hire. We thought he was. He kind of made us think that way with his comments at Super Bowl week. And it's interesting because now, hey, you got Jahmyr Gibbs. People are freaking out a little too much about RB2, but like at the same time, RB2 in Detroit still had 158 carries last year, which I believe was top 30 in the NFL or right on the cusp of top 30 in the NFL. And that's nothing to scoff at. It's just interesting. Montgomery never really showed his frustration with like teammates and stuff like that. It was more kind of like with us, disinterested in talking with us, rolling the eyes whenever you'd come up to him in the locker room, and to a point where it's just like, all right, this guy don't want me standing in the running back corner, which is already the most terrifying corner in the Lions locker room because you're going to get made fun of. There's going to be guys recording your entire interview, but hey, that's part of the game. But yeah, there was definitely a tone shift with Montgomery there, but just, hey, more power to you. Betting on yourself. I just think you made the wrong bet. I think him making it work here, getting on the same page with everyone would have been best, because like, it's tough for me to see in my mind the Lions making this move unless they felt that they truly had to. And that seems to be the consensus, is that I felt like they truly had to. So I think Montgomery's playing the social media and public speaking game well, but I think this was forced his way out. Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. I said, I think right now where people are, fans are like, you see, he wanted to be here. I'm like, hey, look, of course he did. I'm like, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know this for sure with Montgomery, but we have seen so many examples of athletes saying and doing one thing in public,
but behind the scenes moving a little bit different type of way. So as you said, so they can lessen that PR blowback. But at the end of the day, from what we've seen under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they valued that 1-2 punch at running back. And again, I do not see them wanting to move on from David Montgomery unless they felt like, you know what, this is a situation that we do not want to carry over into the new season. If it's going to affect him, going to bring any type of turmoil or angst to the offense, let's just go get him in the best position possible and go and move forward. Because why would the Lions want to do this? They had him under contract for 2 years. Now, as you said, it doesn't move the needle on the salary cap, and you're creating another need because you're going to have to get a RB2 to split some of those carries up and take some of the blowback, or we'll take some of the load off of Jahmyr Gibbs. So I don't think they wanted to create another need when they're already trying to restructure money to fill up everything else.
Exactly. I mean, hey, it's a chance to get younger behind the position. Maybe it's a chance to learn what the heck Sion Vaki, the running back, actually looks like. They need something, and I do think that the running back free agent class is strong. The Lions will not be in the top of the market for there. No chance, no way. But just a couple questions about veteran guys. Like if I'm a James Conner, if I'm a veteran back, and I look at Detroit and the role that Montgomery was still getting behind Gibbs and think, okay, I'm probably not going to get 160 carries like he did. That's still a damn good offense for me to be in, and that's a dang good situation for me to be in. You might see a team-friendly deal come down on a veteran in free agency, nothing major. I do think they'll add something in the draft just because we don't know what Vaki is. Sailors won a spot in camp last year, but then served as the primary kick returner. We don't know what the NFL running back looks like. There are some questions behind Gibbs, but kind of just to put it forward with Gibbs as your RB1. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. We got a question from R. Sowell. If I said that wrong, please hit me up. How are the Lions going to fill 8 potential starting holes between edge, linebacker, defensive line, safety, cornerback, center, left guard with only a bit of cash and 2 high picks? Kory, what do you think?
Hey, good thing Brad got a 4th and a 7th, because I mean, you got to go ahead and fill out this roster somehow. I think the real tell is going to be what these restructures look like over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And, I think that's going to be real key. I think I have no idea, because, again, now they have another needed running back.
No, it's interesting.
So it's really interesting to see how they're about to do this situation, because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, first off, I think Goff, number one, has to be a restructure. Then you're looking at either St. Brown and Sewell, if not both of those guys. So
I know it's they're going to have to get cute. They're going to have to get cute. We'll see what happens there. But the 2 high picks he mentions the Lions only have 2 top 50 picks, and they only have 2 top 100 picks. They're at 17 and 50, and then it goes 118, 128, 156. Potential comp pick 188, 205, 221. That's a lot of late round picks. Obviously added the 2027 7th, got pick 128 back from Montgomery and Juice Scruggs. But yeah, I mean, need another edge rusher because we don't know what's going to happen with Al-Quadin Muhammad. And even if they splurged on Al-Quadin Muhammad, I would argue that's still a need. Linebacker, Alex Anzalone has earned himself one final payday. I don't know if it's going to happen here in Detroit. No. He wants it to be in here in Detroit. I think it should be here in Detroit, but they're going to have to get real cute to make that happen with all the other stuff. D-line, yeah, that's more edge. Tyleek and McNeil are your guys on the inside. Obviously, bring back Roy Lopez would be a smart move. I think the DJ Reader experience is over. Cornerback, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, no questions about the Terrion Arnold situation, but that is one worth monitoring. And I'm just going to say this for anybody going at my dear friend and trusted colleague Nolan Bianchi on Twitter, chill out. Let me just quick media literacy lesson here. What Nolan reported was what a judge wrote in official court documents. It is a reporter's duty to write that. A judge wrote those words in official court documents. Nolan didn't get anonymous sources or tip-offs or anything like that. He found what a judge wrote. So that is a situation worth monitoring. Arnold's camp denies everything. That's going to play out over the we'll just see how that plays out. That's all I'm going to touch there. Center, yeah, need a center. Left guard, yeah, I've said it a million times. Mahogany can't not be your here's the starting role guy. Like if he's going to be the starter at left guard, he's got to go in and earn it. So good question there. Plays perfectly into Chris Cole's question. Chris, appreciate the question. What contracts do you think the Lions restructure? You said it. Goff has got to be the one because you see what the Chiefs did with I'm just trying to find it. You see what the Chiefs did recently with Patrick Mahomes. They converted his near $45 million base salary and a $10 million roster bonus into a guaranteed roster bonus, which created nearly $45 million in immediate cap space. That allows teams to push calorie hips down into the future, creating an issue down the road, but finding relief in the short term. And for guys like Mahomes, for guys like Goff, you're okay doing it with those big contracts and those guys that you're fine tying yourself to for the future. So my mind goes to St. Brown. My mind goes to Sewell. Those three big ones would create a lot of cap space because the Chiefs created 40 plus million. Guess what? Mahomes' base salary was 44 million. Goff's jumps to 55 million per over the cap next season. So that, yes, Goff is where my mind goes. Just wanted to touch on that. Good question there.
Also worth mentioning that Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, and I believe they had one more player, but the Cowboys had a lot of restrictions yesterday as well.
And I believe what everybody got excited about was that tweet a couple of weeks ago was just that the Cowboys and Lions were the teams that could create the most cap space with basic restructures. So we'll see. Brad says he's open to it. That is a discussion because you got to have a lot of cash on hand to be doing that stuff. So we'll see. It's got to get done. So we'll see when that happens.
It has to. I don't see a pathway to filling all of those holes without doing some restructuring.
No, yeah, it's undoable. We got a question. Sorry, I'm doing my own segue music. Shawby with a question. Give a real cost benefit analysis of everything from the Montgomery trade. Yes, they will save money, but how much will they save to spend for a replacement? Yeah. Yes, they received a pick, but will they have to spend it to replace him? And can they even get an equal replacement? So I'll handle the business and I'll let you go. The trade frees up about $3.5 million in space. So essentially nothing based on what you said about spending for a replacement. Then they save $5.5 million by releasing Glasgow. So yeah, I mean, they're going to have to spend what they saved to get a replacement, right, Kory?
Basically, yeah, they are. And I mean, there's a couple of guys out there. I believe you mentioned one, Connor, Kenneth Gainwell. He's been a name I've been seeing floated around. I personally believe the pathway for them would be to go ahead and draft a replacement. Just somebody that you can get on a real cheap deal, because I think you can. I'm not going to sit up here and say David Montgomery is replaceable, because you're talking and not just about what he gave for the offense, but what he provided to the locker room and the camaraderie that he had with those guys. I'm not going to say that he's replaceable, but I will say that you can find a back that will be able to split carries with Swift and be able to add some value in production to this offense. And I believe that this year's class, there are some guys that they could probably get, in those later rounds, in the fourth, fifth, or the sixth round. I mean, the Bears got a guy that I wanted the Lions to get last year. The Bears got Kyle Manan guy last year in the 7th round. So as long as they've repaired an offensive line, you got Gibbs, you got a great running back coach in Tashard Choice, and you still got a guy like Scotty Montgomery in the building who will probably put his 2 cents in whenever asked. I mean, I believe the Lions are going to be in good shape if they draft a running back. I don't think they need to, invest financial resources, sort of in free agency to go grab one.
And I'll just say this to close the cost ask. If you would have told me Montgomery got traded for just a 4th-round pick, I would have said the Lions did great. They add in a 2027 7th, sure, whatever. Still got something more. And then they add in a recent 2023 2nd-round pick and Drew Scruggs. Hasn't been able to carve out a role on Houston's terrible offensive line, but maybe he's been playing out of position. He's got center experience. He's got guard experience. So good job on value. They are a worse team today than they were with David Montgomery, but they still did what they had to do, and they still got better than expected value. The next question comes from John 16, kind of loops in with that. He wants to know if it's better to draft a Demo replacement or sign a reasonable veteran such as James Conner if he's willing to play RB2. I think the answer is a little column A, a little column B. I think you sign a veteran, see how it looks in camp, and you spend one of those 6th-round picks or a 5th-round pick on a running back. I know you guys probably don't want to hear that with all the other needs elsewhere, but I think that's kind of where they are. And I mean, I think even a Tyler Algier, he's going to be out of market for the Lions. Do you think he really wants to go from behind Bijan Robinson to behind Jahmyr Gibbs when he's got a payday? Probably not. But my mind goes to maybe Rachaad White doesn't have the market he thinks. Maybe Brian Robinson, someone who was kind of didn't play much as he was used to in San Fran last year. And then there are other guys like a Jerome Ford. And then there's obviously we mentioned Connor. I mean, what Connor did in the first 2 seasons under Drew Petzing in Arizona. I mean, it was a 7th, 8th year pro with his first 2,000 yard season. So he knows the offense. He knows the coach. He knows that it's been successful for him in the past. And I will just say, I like James Conner. I think that'd be a good value pickup right there. But there are a couple guys in the draft. I'll throw a couple names at you. Washington's Jonah Coleman would probably be the priciest pick on a running back, and they'd probably have to get lucky to get him. I like him. Big back, open to growing his passing game more. Then there's Penn State's Nick Singleton, Arkansas's Mike Washington Jr., Wake Forest's Damon Claiborne, and Toledo's Chip Trainum, which felt like a Parks and Rec character name, but I just like his build. Those are just a couple guys to keep eyes on. That's kind of where I'm at with the Montgomery stuff. I think it's a little column A, little column B. John, sign a veteran. Somebody in that 1 to whatever the cheap range, the David Montgomery salary cap hit range. That's fascinating, but yeah, I think it's going to take one of both because I think it would be great to count on Sion Vaki for a larger role, but we just haven't seen him at running back much. So I don't know.
I'm
all right.
I'm thinking. Yeah. I personally don't think that they run it with Sione as
no.
RB2. I just
if he wins it, he wins it. But yeah. All right, we got Chirpy Saurus Rex with a question I'll let you lead off with. What's the topic storyline you're least looking forward to this offseason? The one topic that will get repeated over and over, that you'll get asked about every week, that you'll be exhausted talking about.
What are they going to do with edge rusher?
That's my answer too.
That's edge rusher. I mean, I would say this. I would say what are they going to do behind for adding a David Montgomery replacement? Might be my 1B, but because I didn't even have to think about that one until this week. But yeah, edge rusher just going to be. It's going to be up there. You know what? Take that back. Since you already got the edge rusher, I'm gonna go with what are they going to do with the David Montgomery replacement? Because I'm getting
that's fine.
I'm getting so many questions about that right now. What are they going to do? They're going to run Gibbs into the ground. He's going to be done by the bye week. Fire Brad. I'm like, oh my God, why did you guys do this?
It's that time of year. It's overreaction season. My answer and the answer is edge rushers. It's been 3 years of this talk. Justified. We still have to do it, but just it's such a persistent topic. It's such a point of contention when we ask Brad about it. And I'm sure you guys are tired of talking and hearing about it too. So that's why edge rushers is the answer there. Yes, they need another edge rusher, but I have been banging the freaking table for edge rushers for 3 years. And it's kind of where they're just stubborn. They know what they like. They know what they don't want to reach on. They know what they don't want to take chances on. And they know what fits their scheme and what they want. So they're going to continue. I think they're going to continue doing this to us. So we'll see there. And then on the flip side, Chirpysaurus Rex wants to know, what's the story you're looking forward to the most? Mine's the draft. I love the draft. I love the draft experience. I love talking to rookies on a great night in their life. I love being in the media room, watching the draft, reacting in real time to everything. The Michael Penix pick was an all-timer. We didn't believe the tweets until we saw it on TV. It's like a binge eating junk food fest because we work and live in Allen Park for 3 days of hurry up and wait. But it's the draft. The combine's fun, but it's draft. It's the whole draft experience and just everything. It's exhausting. But it's kind of what drew me to this field anyway, was like when the draft stuff started taking off in the early 2000s and Mel Kiper became a rock star and all that stuff. I love the draft. I love the mystery. I love the months of will they, won't they, hypothetical situations coming to an end and just getting to talk to those guys with their families and friends all around them. Such a morale boost most of the time. I love the draft. That's my answer.
My answer is coming up next week. Free agency. I
That is
love
not
free.
my answer.
I love free agency. I just love seeing like, okay, what are teams doing around the league to improve their roster? How are they addressing it? Why did they go sign the player that they signed and give him? Why did he earn that, X, Y, and Z contract? Like, and I'm also curious for another reason to see is I'm really curious to see what the Lions do, because this is a season where even though the reports are they're not going to be major players and they don't have they still got to free up a lot of money to even do anything. I'm just really curious to see if Brad Holmes and the Lions brass are going to not necessarily go away from their ethos, but show some flexibility in their approach to roster building, because this is going into year 6.
Yeah.
They've been
wow.
They've been doing things. Yeah. And they've had they've had 4 winning seasons, but I would say 2 quote unquote successful ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fall off a little bit when you don't go into the playoffs. I'm curious to see what are they going to do to make themselves a playoff team again? What are they going to do to keep this Super Bowl window? I don't want to say Super Bowl window open. What are they going to do to make themselves a playoff team again? And what are they going to do to insert themselves back into the Super Bowl conversation that they were once in? Because somebody said, talked to me the other day. They said that the Lions are. I don't know why they made this move with David Montgomery, because they're a Super Bowl ready team. No, they're a team that can be a playoff contender. I don't think they're a Super Bowl ready team. So I want to see what they're going to do to get into that conversation, because you see all of these other teams in the NFC, heck, even in the division, making moves, reportedly preparing to make splashes to get their teams ready for, a potential run. And yes, the Lions are trying to build for the long term, but at some point, don't you try to go for it? I want to see when are they going to finally go for it.
Yeah. And I think Dan Campbell is speaking with the urgency, the speaking that we need to be aggressive, more aggressive. Like I get that sense from Dan Campbell big time. And I think Brad Holmes is hearing it too, because I remember sitting at the owners meetings last year and we're asking Brad about another the DJ Reed deal was the biggest external free agent deal that Brad had handed out. So we were talking to him like 2 weeks after that, and he just kind of talked about all the extensions they still had to do, all the extensions they already made. And, sometimes you can't go on vacation. Yeah. He got presented with that analogy at the combine last week and was kind of like, oh, we're open to everything. So I think if the restructures go through that we think are going to go through, they're going to have money to play with. I wouldn't be surprised to see them fill the center void in free agency and then maybe take someone that they like in the draft. We'll see there, because as noted, 2 top 100 picks. The 4th rounder helps, but they're not working with the crop of picks they have been in previous years. But yeah, I don't think they'll be handing out a deal that's bigger than DJ Reed's deal, but I could see a handful of moves that adds up to a more aggressive approach. So we'll see what happens there. The Lions are always talked about as a team that's not going to be aggressive in free agency. And right now where we're sitting Thursday morning, March 5th, it's hard to see how they will be aggressive unless multiple things happen. And just a breaking news note, news inside the NFC North. I saw you looking at your phone, so I looked down at mine. The Chicago Bears just cleared a lot of cap space, traded wide receiver DJ Moore to the Bills for what is being reported as a mid-round pick. So Bears get younger at receiver, free up some cap space, and the Bills land a receiver.
Yeah.
So there you go. Good stuff there. Charles Bryan, I see your question. We did kind of note that. Oh, he's got a second part of his question. Favorite combine prospects we'd love to see in Detroit. I don't know if you want to see Jake Slaughter in Detroit, because you might be double taken if it's me or Dan Campbell.
That was probably the most hilarious thing. I just looked up. I'm like, hold up. What? All right. This profile, he looks like Dan Campbell with glasses. But if you go on this side, He looks a little bit like Ben with the shave.
I know, me with a goatee.
See?
and high school teacher glasses.
Yeah.
Once you said that, I was like, holy crap, I can't unsee this. In this one picture, he looks exactly like me. This picture, he looks exactly like Dan. And I sent it to my girlfriend Elaine, and she's like, he looks more like Dan, but I definitely see what he's talking about. Then our good friends over at the Lions Collective podcast, I got this clip sent to me about 40 times as Colton Pouncey holding up the photo of Slaughter and Will Birchfield talking about how much he looks like me. And he goes, hey, Ben Raven and Dan Campbell, that's a thoroughbred beer drinker right there. And I was like, easy. I'm 37. That ain't me no more. But that was funny. But Jake Slaughter would be a great prospect. I knew we were getting somewhere with that. I know the safety stuff is weird, and this would take a high pick. I already talked about Emmanuel McNeil. Warren out of Toledo, love him. And I've mentioned Spencer Fano multiple times. I just dropped my second mock draft, the post-combine mock draft today. I didn't think there would be a world where Fano would fall, but he's kind of fallen consensusly right now. People don't know what position he's going to play. His arms are shorter, blah, 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 blah. He can play guard. He can play tackle. They even worked him out at center at the combine. And I'm just saying, for anybody who scoffs at that in Detroit, guess who's got as much experience at center as Spencer Fano? Tate Ratledge. So get him. That is a clear-cut top 15 talent, a real special athlete at that size. One of my favorite lines read about Fano was whenever Utah needed a yard or a conversion, they ran his way. If he plays interior, he's better than Mahogany. If Ratledge moves to center, he's a great right guard. If somehow he clicks at center, that's a dark horse thing to watch. Or if he's just a tackle in waiting, guess what? That is clear-cut first-round talent. I loved him coming in, loved him coming out, and now I see a reality to where it happens because the rise of Monroe Freeling is freaking real. That's got staying power. Someone explained it to me, and it just feels true. Like that Monroe Freeling really feels like he's in the mix for OT1 or 2. That's who I kind of came out of the combine thinking I'd mock to the Lions, but it was like, oh, everybody's higher on this guy. Like it's just skyrocketing up. It feels like it's going to stay. There's a couple names for you. I mentioned Jonah Coleman as a running back. Casey Concepcion was great. And then he had to send out a statement for his speech impediment. I just love the way he handled that.
Oh, that was awesome.
How he feels comfortable in his own skin. I already loved him anyway. So there's some guys. Omar Cooper from Indiana is a darling of mine. Lions don't need receivers, but those guys are good talkers. And the offensive linemen are great. Like all the offensive linemen, those are the best stories. I know you guys probably saw the tweet of like the low attended media attendance on Saturday. We were there. That picture was extremely misleading. It filled in because guess what? Last day of the combine, 15 minutes from podium availability. Let me tell you where I am. I'm getting a coffee. I'm charging my computer. I'm sprinting downstairs in those final 15 minutes. So like that was misleading. We were there. The Detroit beat was there. The offensive linemen are the best storytellers. We'll continue to have stuff out of that. Another guy I'll just mention is the Arizona State tackle that just is rising and rising. Might be a first-round guy. I love the stories of the guys that are like, yep, didn't play high school football. Somehow got into it at the JUCO level and ended up being a multi-year starter at a D1 program. So there's a couple guys for me. Anybody I missed that you liked, Kory?
Two guys that I liked. One is probably going to be a day 2 guy, Miami's Keontae Scott. You know, there's been talk about the Lions getting a cornerback. I like him as a versatile defender. He kind of reminds me of a Brian Branch type, a guy that could play deep, but he's primarily, you know, he can play in the slot, he can play in the box, and he seems like he's a pretty violent guy. And I think that they just need that type of versatility when you really don't know what's going to be happening with Terrion Arnold, and your safety room is in flux. So I think that he would provide some versatility that the Lions could desperately need in that area. Another guy that I really like too is, and I stuck around for him. I asked him a lot of questions. I thought he would have had a bigger, let's say bigger table, because he wasn't on the podium. I was Caden Weegan. I'm really been on this. I've really been hanging on this return thing. I know a few Lions fans have asked me, well, what about Dominic Lovett? We didn't really see enough from him to really get a good grade on Lovett. I mean, I know the thought process is there. I get it. But with Weegan, the past 2 years at Iowa, he's been the nation's best returner.
Yep.
That's where he knows where he's best suited at. He's comfortable with it. He feels that he has more to offer in the passing game, and I believe that the Shrine Bowl was a good chance. Where he did show that he had a more developed route tree than what he got a chance to show at Iowa. But this is a guy that wants to come in there and be a dynamic returner. And when you don't know what you have and love it, you do have sailors, but I mean, you got to make sure that's still going on. And
I like it.
Khalif Raymond, we don't know. We don't know. He's 32, getting up there. I think this is an opportunity where after you take care of everything you need to take care of, if Weegan is still there in round 7, I think you got to grab him.
And I like it too, just because the emphasis put on kick returnings with the new rules, and we don't know what's going to happen with Raymond. I'll say this about Raymond: it's hard to imagine him not in a Lions uniform. He's one of those guys that I refuse to rule out. I know people are moving on, blah 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 blah. That ain't gonna break the bank. They love him. That's a locker room leader. I'll see what happens there. But if he does go somewhere else, or if they do not bring him back, I love that thinking, because we were doing the drive down to Indy and we're like, oh crap, what receivers are we going to talk to? And then we both said the Iowa kid's name at the same time. It's like, yep, there you go. There, we just made that a Lions story. Beautiful. We got 3 questions left, but 2 are both about Drew Scruggs. Love that. March 5th, baby. First one is from Justin Daniels with the email subject line, "You're doing great." So thank you, Justin. Just a friendly reminder that fans are crazy. This is the quote. I'm quoting the question. Just a friendly reminder that fans are crazy. I would never talk about you guys like that. And you can't talk about how Drew Scruggs played his best football at center in college and up until 2024 with the Texans. Oh, and given the state of the Texans offensive line over the last 2 years, maybe it's less about the players, more about putting those players in position to succeed. Then we got Will Rainey. Does Juice have the juice to be our center of the future? Any reason for optimism? Here's the thing, and it's the thing that I go back to. He was a second-round pick in 2023. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell scouted this guy. They've talked about this guy. They know of this guy. So they see something there. And I think maybe the position you're talking about plays into that factor, because maybe they were like, hey, at the worst, this is center depth. He's got experience all over the interior line, struggled to carve out a role on a truly bad Texans offensive line. But the optimism is in the addition that he was a recent second-round pick, meaning that Holmes has got a read on him. Campbell and him have probably talked about him as a previous option. In the college stuff, he played 1,000+ snaps at center at Penn State. Played all over the line. I don't know about starter, but he's 26 years old, and the Lions clearly see enough to give him a chance. I like the versatility. I like the depth, the cost-controlled depth. Take a chance on a guy that you previously might have been high on.
I like it. And just to add on to that, if Hank Fraley is who we believe he to be,
Frank Haley.
I've done that twice. You know what? I've done that twice this week when writing, and I went back. I'm like, what is wrong with me?
You've done that on the pod before too.
Yeah. But if Hank Fraley,
Hank Craig now. No.
Hank Fraley is who we believe to be. I believe that he'll be able to do some magic with Scruggs. Again, not saying he's a starter, but I think that he will be better than the options they've had at depth across the line in the past couple of years, because, pulling guys off practice squads, guys that have just been floating all around the league is not ideal. I think that with the great offensive, and this is just be real, I believe that Scruggs is going to be around a more talented offensive coaching staff in general. So I think that would just go ahead and aid in his development as well. So I think that for depth, great. Starter, maybe a stopgap in an emergency situation.
Yeah. Let me just say this. If his ceiling is Evan Brown, there's nothing wrong with being an Evan Brown. The Lions have needed an Evan Brown. So, yeah, I like it. Recent second-round pick who hasn't worked out, who hasn't carved out a consistent role, but maybe someone they see the light on. But looking at him as a potential starter, it feels like a stretch, but we don't know. Maybe he clicks. Maybe he takes off. Maybe they unlock what they see. There is reason for optimism, but at the end of the day, these were tack-ons to the trade to get it done. And I already said, if the Lions just got a 4th-round pick for Montgomery, I would have been like, you know what? They're a worse team than they are today, but they did their best with something they felt they had to do. So adding on a 26-year-old former second-round pick, good job. Adding on a 7th-round pick to maybe turn into a mid-round pick in this year's draft with some of those other late-round picks. Good job. More toys to play with, more versatility, more options. They need all of that on the offensive line. And last question from John Annette in Roseville, who was nice enough to send a second question after the Lions answered his Graham Glasgow question from earlier in the week. He says, hi, guys. What do you think about 97.1? Good. You're lucky I included this question. Saying that Holmes is more of a scout than a general manager. I have to say I did agree with a lot of what they said. Now, actually, I did catch some of this. I think it came after the Trent McDuffie trade to the Rams and how the Rams, outside of taking Jared Verse, have shipped their first-round pick off in recent years. And I think there's some frustration, like, why doesn't Holmes have this gene? Well, let's just put it this way. And I believe Jeremy Reisman said it first, but he also said it best. The Lions were not in position to trade first-round picks up until, 3 years ago? They needed all those. They really needed all those. They needed that youth infusion. That's how they got the cornerstones they got now. But I do think about this because I do think, like, I love that he wants to do everything through the draft, develop, retain, and pay. That's great. It's gotten them this far. But I do think what they were getting at and what John is asking about is like, what's the next evolution? All right, your way built this thing. How do you sustain it? How do you grow it from where it is? So I think maybe that's where the questions are coming from. I still think he's GM. He's a general manager who is a scout. I don't think he's a scout and not a general manager. Like I just think he's still figuring that out as this thing evolves and injuries happen and challenges come out of left field and red flags pop up. And all of a sudden you go from having 2 first-round picks and back-to-back drafts to having 2 top 50 picks. Like, it's going to take some evolution, but just like, we always wondered if Holmes would tap into his F them picks mantra that the Rams organization has embraced. I just don't see that happening with him. I think he cherishes those first-round picks, whether it's 32 or it's 1. He cherishes those things. And I think that's an okay thing.
Yeah, just doing it had to go double check on something. It took, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it took like Howie Roseman like 8 years before he went ahead and got his first Super Bowl as an executive. I think that with Brad, and let me just double check one thing just to make sure I'm correct.
Yep.
Yeah, so with Brad, with Howie had more so of a business type of background acumen to his approach, whereas Brad was basically a scout. So I think that both of them have been successful in leaning on their ethos, but now you're hoping with the fact of Brad, okay, can you tap into that? We got to make these type of X, Y, and Z deals to go ahead and get who we need to get. And I think Brad is a good GM. The verdict is out on whether he's going to be a great one. The great one is going to be what he can do to elevate this team from where they are. And I'm not sure that it will be done this season, just to be quite honest, this offseason. I see him as more of a he's a general manager. I just feel that he's has more scout to him than business, than guy trying to make a business deal.
He's never kind of been shy about his background either. I will say, if you want to nitpick anything, I think you could make an argument that they could have been more aggressive the last 2 years. Yeah. When all those guys were on rookie contracts, when they had that window to kick the salary cap problems down the road a little bit instead of where they are now, you get 2 mid to late 20 first round picks in back-to-back years. You see what the Rams just turned the 29th pick into, and Trent McDuffie, a starting cornerback who's got the chance to fix their main problem. I'm fine with that frustration because I don't think they had to go either way. Terrion was a great pick at the time. We'll see what happens there. I'd like the Tyleek pick. I get why people were like, what the hell? Another interior defender when you got DJ Reader on contract for another year. But hey, look at him now. That's a hole that people should not be worried about thanks to that Tyleek pick. Put him back to a healthy McNeil. But I do think if you wanted to get frustrated with anything, not that you need my permission to do so, you could have the last 2 years probably could have been a little more aggressive in player acquisition outside of the draft. But hey, he's built them this far, still deserves all the praise in the world because If that dude for some reason became available, I think he'd be the top option, and teams would be rushing and getting guys out of the way to go get him. And I think people do need a reality check there. But this is a crucial offseason. I mean, this is going to take some evolution. It's going to take, kind of like Dan with all the external candidates for offensive coordinator, it's going to take a new approach. That doesn't mean you tear it down or go away from what you believe in and what you love, but I think it just requires a different lens. I think he's capable of it. I think we might see it a touch, like I said, in free agency next week. Like, I don't think they'll be breaking the bank on $50 million deals. I don't think they'll have the Linderbaum sweepstakes are going to be for them. So we'll see what happens there, but good questions this week. That is what we got for you. Yep, go ahead. I was closing us out early.
Oh, my bad. I was going to just add this. I do think that Dan is, just based off of what Dan has said, end of the season, at the combine, I just have a feeling that he might be putting some pressure on Brad to make sure that he does his job and bring in that talent. Because I think Dan, like you said it earlier in this podcast, Dan knows the sense of urgency that's going on right now. He knows that, hey, there's a window and it can close. We got to go ahead and add talent now. So I think he's probably putting a little bit more pressure on Brad these days than normal. If I'm just assuming.
No, I think so too. I think the pressure inside that building is real. They realized what happened this year was real and that it can't happen again when you've got the players and the coaches that they've got. So that's it. Thank you for the questions. That was great. Thank you. Please. Like I said, it probably won't be next week, but the next time I open up the mailbag, I want to see some voice memos. You know, if you're watching free agency and you fire off a voice memo to Dungeon of Doom, we'll probably still play it on next week's episode. So just get us one of those. I love the voice memos. I love hearing your guys' voices. I love reacting in real time to that stuff. It's a little risky sometimes, as we found out last year a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what that one dude said, but it stuck with me. Like, oh, maybe I should listen to these before I play them on the air. No, that's what we got Patrick for. He's the best in the game. But that's it for us. Please mail back questions anytime, any place. dungeonofdoom@mlive.com. My mock draft went live at mlive.com/Lions this morning, 2.0. Kory's will be up tomorrow. I had Spencer Fano going to the Lions at 17th, and we're going to make you click the story to find out Kory's pick because I'm sure he's still working through it. But hey, we'll be back next week. We'll probably target Thursday. Seems like a good bet. 24 hours after the new league year opens. Let some dust settle. Give us some time to gather everything we need to gather. We'll be busy round the clock. Kory's looking forward to it. I'm ready for the draft.
Oh, yeah.
Until next time, I'm Ben Raven. He is Kory Woods. We are MLive's Dungeon of Doom Detroit Lions podcast.
Peace out.